Sorry, we'll discuss that after the class. It's okay.
Okay, let me see. I looking at mine now. Uh, oh, I see the message now. Sorry about that. We can talk afterwards.
Afterwards, okay. Thank you so
I
much.
apologize. I did miss that one
No,
because
no, not at all. Not at all, Prabhu.
and then tomorrow you have Haridai Nandamara I'm speaking.
Yes.
It was very good. I'll sit in on that one too.
Jai. Hare
Uh,
Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our beloved speaker for today, His Grace Brahma-TIRTHA Prabhu. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnavi devotees. We thank you all for being here as always. It is always an honor to have our beloved uncle speak with us. And Prabhuji is here. So I don't have much to say than to say thank you, Prabhuji. And without further ado, I may put the verse on the screen. The purport is quite lengthy.
I'm not going to read the whole purport. It's too
Okay,
long.
so you handle it the way you want
Yeah,
to.
I have various paragraphs I'll pick out and we'll
Okay.
get some context. Should I begin, my dear friends?
Yes, please. You may chant the
Okay,
mantras, and I will share the screen. Hare
and
Krishna.
then after the class, you can call me and we'll answer your questions.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Hare Krishna.
okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Um, as I've mentioned other times, it's a special privilege to speak here. I see my friends Sahadev and Gull and others. It's always very enlivening for me. And um, uh, we one of the tenets of Krishna consciousness is, and we'll get into this in this chapter a little, is you're not this body. And we just had a 2-day BI retreat, Bhaktivedanta Institute retreat. You can see I have my Bhaktivedanta Institute official shirt on now. Somebody actually donated all these to us. So everyone at the BI now, we have our uniform. Gull, if you want, I'll send you one of these. Send
Okay. I think large, probably, yes.
large. Okay. It's a great pleasure to do that. Large.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, you are part of our institute. We must do that. So, at the retreat, I was asked to adjust my language in a brilliant way. We had a facilitator, and this is a lesson for me. How many times have all of us said we're not this body? And the facilitator said, no, that's the wrong way to put it. And we had a co-facilitator, and she said, she said she's not a devotee per se, but she loves what we do and is helping us out the Institute. And she's she studied consciousness for decades, and she's in her mid-80s and takes us very seriously. And she said, no, the correct way to say it is we're more than this body. So, because sometimes when we say we're not this body, we actually reject even taking care of the body, which is against our principles. We neglect other people's bodies. No, we're more than this body, she put it. And I thought, what a nice way to say it. So that's my new saying now. We're more than this body. Now, those, especially in Africa or African Americans, have dealt with a particular nasty aspect of being identified in their body by skin color. And Prabhupada used to say the number one disease in the world, number one disease is skin disease, identifying with the body. But also Prabhupada didn't neglect his body. Never. He took care of it very carefully because it's not ours. It's ours for service. So we're more than this body, and the bodily concept of life is extremely dangerous. And pretending that we don't have a body is also extremely dangerous unless we're extremely transcendental. Now we're going to get to people in this chapter, the four Kumaras, who are totally above identifying with the body, but very cleverly, very, very cleverly, even though they're some of the oldest people on the planet, they decided to keep a body of a 5-year-old. That way, they never had to deal with things like puberty and had total freedom. Even when we're in a class, if a little child runs, the mother or father, they have almost complete freedom. And if you don't give a child complete freedom, they will yell and scream, kind of like the President of the United States currently does, to be frank. Acts like a little child. Yells and screams and this and that. If he doesn't get his way, he never got past 5 years old. But we'll leave the political commentary out after that. But I couldn't help that. So the four Kumaras, they're chose a 5-year-old, and their dress was pretty interesting. They didn't have any, and like Sukadeva Goswami, they're so transcendental it made no difference. And then in this chapter, they're approaching the gates of the kingdom of God. Now, this gets very relevant for us because today is Varaha's appearance day, and I'll speak about Varaha, then we'll get to the verse. So Varaha is interesting. Does anybody know the origin? Varaha was a boar, and a boar, a large pig, you might say, and that following the word, it comes from a German word, I think, vora, which comes from the Sanskrit word varaha. So even the English word boar can, by scholars, trace directly back to Sanskrit. So boar, varaha, they're very similar word. Often when we move from one language to another, V's turn into B's and just like that. So even if you go in India, in some places you would say Braja, other places you say Vraja. Same thing. So the Lord appeared. He appeared in an unusual way, coming out of Brahma's nose. Now, generally, the things that come out of our nose are not things that we want to keep around. That's why we have tissues. We kind of dispose of things that come out of our nose. If you go to New Delhi nowadays, based on the air pollution, you will have many, many things coming out of your nose. And none of them will be of the Lord of the universe. In this case, Brahma had something come out of his nose, like a little fly. It looked like a little strange, kept growing, growing. So the Lord is very mystical. He can appear anywhere. There was a book that came out, maybe I mentioned before, in the 70s, and it was an anti-cult book. And the book talked about various cults, including Roman Catholic priests and nuns and Hare Krishnas and others. Some of the groups they talk about were kind of weird and culty. Some of them were just normal religion. When they got to Krishna, and we were dealing with the anti-cult activity then, and so I read the book, and when I did, the chapter on Krishna actually made me want to be a devotee even more. It just convinced me because they said, what a crazy religion this is. They said God can lie on an ocean and breathe and millions of universes pop out. They said, that's madness. And I said, no, that's God. I thought it was cool. So that was their anti-cult thing. So the idea of Varaha appearing from the nose and these things, to me, it shows the greatness of God. By the way, as an aside, this is a Bhaktivedanta Institute issue. turns out that modern cosmology sees millions of universes or galaxies. We're not sure. The word universe, when Prabhupada translates several different words, even loka as universe. So, the Sanskrit that has more distinctions. Um, and and turns out that the cover of the Bhagavatam showing millions of planets very closely corresponds to the way modern cosmology sees things working from some uh, black hole or some primordial dot, frankly, all the universe is spring. That is absolutely modern cosmology. So when you look at the cover of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, you are seeing a very modern view of cosmology, just as an aside. So now we will get to today's verse. I want to set the context. The four Kumaras, they approached the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers were not exactly, he said, you can't come in here, but children can go wherever they want. And that was kind of offensive. And you don't have an appointment. All of you have gone to see some important person without an appointment, and you know what that can be like. So here, you don't have an appointment to see Vishnu. Who are you? Get out of here. That was offensive. And then when Lord Vishnu understood how offensive it was, he appeared right away. In fact, he appeared so quickly that Garuda, who's super fast, couldn't keep up with him. The Lord appeared before Garuda, and Garuda had to follow him and kind of crawl under the Lord because that became the sitting place for the Lord. So Garuda actually couldn't even get there fast enough because the Lord can move at the speed of the mind. Just like you're in a Bhagavatam class now, but some of you, your mind is wandering. So, maybe you're at the breakfast table, or maybe your mind went to India. At the speed of your mind, you can be elsewhere. So similarly, at the speed of the mind, the Lord appeared, and Garuda does not move at the speed of the mind. So he may move super fast. Who knows the speed of sound, light maybe, I don't know. But he couldn't beat the Lord there. So the Lord came and dealt with it. And before that, in the chapter, there's a great discussion of how amazing Vaikuntha is and what it looks like. And why is that description, chapter is called Description of the Kingdom of God? Just because this is the process of appreciating. Just like, let me give a mundane example. Let's say one of you is being introduced to a potential spouse. And let's say you're being introduced to a potential spouse you haven't met. So what's the first thing you're going to ask? Let's say it's a guy being introduced to a girl. So you're going to ask, well, usually people ask, what does she look like? What education does she have? What's her background? Sometimes they ask, how much money does her family have? Not a great question, but it's the most common one. So these questions are asked. And because we want to know more. Similarly, if we really want to, it's not just God as an impersonal thing, but God as a person, we want to know more. There is no literature in the world, I'll repeat it, there is no literature in the world that goes into detail of who God is and how to know God and the features as much as this literature which we're studying. If we take the Old Testament, there's a very interesting verse in there. When Moses went to get the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai, he saw the back of God's head with fine black hair. Can anybody think of someone in the Bhagavatam who has fine black hair? Krishna. It says right in the Bible, he saw the back of God's heads with fine black hair, but very little description beyond that. In fact, the word God is a curious word. The word God, where it comes from, I attended a class at Harvard by Professor Witzel, who's one of the top philologists in the world. He was chair of Sanskrit department. And he gave a lecture on the origin of the word God, and he's quite scholarly. It comes from the German word Gott, which comes from a Sanskrit word, uh, yajna, and it actually means sacrifice. So the word God originally cognitively relates to Sanskrit from the word sacrifice. It's a title and an action, but it doesn't tell you a lot about the person. The word Krishna tells you a lot about the person. Why? Because it tells you it means all attractive. It tells you a lot of information. The word God doesn't tell you a lot of information. So now this chapter gives amazing amount of information. And remember, we only have 12 cantos. In the heavenly planets, there are 70 some odd cantos. So this is just a tiny piece of a description. There's so much more that can be said, but we can't handle it all now. As Christ said, there's so much I could tell you, but you can't bear to hear it. And it's like that. So now we're going to do verse 45, chapter 3, description of the kingdom of God. Pumsagatim Murgatam Hayaga Margar Dayanaspam Bahu Matam Nayan Biramam Pumsamam Vapur Darsyam Darshayanam Anya Siddhar Anutpatikai Samargan Yutam Asta Bogai. This is a form of the Lord which is meditated upon by followers of the yoga process. It is pleasing to the yogis in meditations, not imaginary, but factual, as proven by great yogis. The Lord is full in 8 kinds of achievement, but for others, these achievements are not possible in full perfection. So here, this is the exquisite beauty of Narayan being described. The 4 Kumaras saw Narayan. The yogis are trying to get the form of Narayan in their mind. The 4 Kumaris had already mostly done that to some degree, a little bit impersonal at times. Now they saw the Lord they were trying to meditate upon in person, and any hint of impersonalism was completely destroyed. All of us have impersonalism. If we don't think we do, then we haven't looked at ourselves. So by understanding the form, pastimes of the Lord, that's how we get past impersonalism. Now, this is one of the longer purports in the Bhagavatam. So if I read it all, there will be, reminds me of a call I did. I was working for the government. That was before Zoom. This was speakerphone days. And I was consulting for the state of Florida, and there was a regulatory issue that I was expert on. So the head of the Department of Environmental Protection called together about 50 of the leaders from all the different counties in the state to attend a speaker, get on speakerphone, and he would do an introduction, and then I would give them some training. And we had no visual then. It was just speakerphones. The technology wasn't out then. This was in the 90s. So this senior official in the government goes on. He's supposed to give a 1-minute introduction. Goes on for 10, 15 long minutes. Then we hear over the speakerphone, somebody fell asleep, started snoring very loud, and there was no way to mute them. It was just what I wanted. I don't want to put any of you in that position now. So I won't read the whole purport to put you to sleep, because that will happen. Some will stay awake, most won't. But I'll read parts of it. It's a very important purport. Why is this purport so special? Well, there's a great misunderstanding of what yoga is. If you ask most people in the West what yoga is, it's a form of stretching. Now, stretching is great. I hope all of us stretch all the time. I don't stretch enough. When I do, I feel better. I'm not opposed to stretching. I'm not opposed to eating healthy. I'm not opposed to deep breathing. All these things are good. But their physical exercise. The word yoga, as I'm sure all of you know, comes from the same root word as like a yoke between oxen. It means to link up. It's a connection between you and God, between you and Krishna. It's a deeper connection. And when Prabhupada came to America, and when he was writing this in, guessing, late 60s, and he came to America because he had done the first two cantos before coming, and the third canto would have been written in America. When he's writing it, yoga was becoming very popular. And so Prabhupada had to deal with people misusing yoga. When Prabhupada came, he stayed at Professor Mishra's ashram in the Upper West Side of New York. Now, Professor Mishra was very nice to Prabhupada. He had no place to stay. It can get cold in New York and snowy, and gave him a place to stay. And he would sit and watch Professor Mishra teach yoga classes and then give impersonal philosophy, ultimately leading, you are God, I'm God. If I'm God, boy, the world's in trouble. I was brought up in a Jewish family in which there's this myth that we're the chosen people. And I was thinking, God, if we're the chosen people, the world, and I'm part of that, the world is finished. When I was in India, living in India, teaching high school, I got arrested for being a CIA agent. I was not, true, I was not CIA. And I was arrested somehow because India and Pakistan were about to go to war, and America was favoring Pakistan and Soviet Union India. And technically, even though I was only earning a few hundred rupees a month, I was working for the American government. So people became suspicious of me, and at one point arrested me. I mean, they let me go after a while. And I was thinking, if these people think me, a spaced out 22-year-old who knows nothing, I'm CIA, don't they understand that if I'm CIA, they have nothing to worry about? If the best America could do would be me, they have absolutely nothing to worry about. It's just silly. So the idea that Professor Mishra was teaching that I'm God, Prabhupada saw it as silly. And the idea that by yoga practice is all you need, just do your asanas and your breathing and you become God. Prabhupada rejected all of this as just a diversion from the real purpose, which is love. And that's what we're going to get into in this purport. So when Prabhupada was writing this, I'm giving you the context. I'm shortly after leaving Professor Mishra's ashram, seeing how yoga was being misused in America. And he got inspired to write a very long purport about that. That's the context of what we're dealing with here. I'm going to pause a second, see if there are any questions. Then I'll read a few paragraphs in the purport, because like I said, I'm not going to put people to sleep. Well, maybe I will. Some people don't have their cameras on, and so, but they're muted, so I won't know they're sleeping. Okay, we're safe. So the success of the yoga process is nicely described here. It is specifically mentioned that the form of the Lord as four-handed Narayan is the object of meditation for the followers of the Yoga Marg. Yoga Marg means yoga path. In the modern age, there are so many so-called yogis who do not target their meditation on the four-handed Narayan form. I'm guessing Prabhupada was thinking of Dr. Mishra's ashram. I can't say for sure, but timing would indicate that. And in New York, then yoga was occurring. Now, even at the Bhaktivedanta Institute on Saturdays, we have a yoga class. I mean, I'm not saying that yoga is a bad thing. It depends on the purpose of it. And that's like anything. A gun in the hand of a police officer protecting us is a good thing. A gun in the hand of an ICE agent in Minnesota is a bad thing, because they'll shoot people. That's the reality of life. Okay, some of them try to meditate on something impersonal and void, but that is not approved by great yogis who follow the standard method. Yeah, he has to be talking about Dr. Mishra. The real yoga mark process is to control the senses. I've been to yoga classes just for the purpose of increasing my flexibility, and they never talk about controlling the senses. It's sitting in a solitary and sanctified place, and above all, I might add, meditating on the four-handed form of Narayan, decorated as described earlier in this chapter. This Narayan form is Krishna's expansion. Therefore, the Krishna conscious movement, which is now spreading, is the real topmost yoga process. Krishna conscious is the highest yoga performance by trained devotional yogis. Despite all the allurement of yoga practice, the 8 kinds of yoga perfections are hardly achievable by the common man. One time Prabhupada was asked, do you have any yoga perfections? Prabhupada said, I have the rarest yoga perfection, so rare that hardly any yogi has ever achieved this perfection. Devotees were wondering, can Prabhupada lift a mountain? Can he become smaller than an atom? Can he instantly travel to Vaikuntha? They were wondering in their minds, what was it? And Prabhupada, is so rare, hardly any yogi has it. What is it, Prabhupada? What is it? And Prabhupada shocked them with what he said. Does anybody know what he said? You could unmute and say. Here's what he said. I can be alone in a room with beautiful naked women and have zero disturbance. He said, none of the yogis achieve that. That is the highest yoga. But here it is described, the Lord who appeared before the 4 sages is himself full of all 8 of these perfections. The highest yoga marg, meaning path, process is to concentrate the mind 24 hours a day on Krishna. That means hearing about Krishna, talking about Krishna. This morning, attended a class in New Raman Reti on Lord Varaha. I felt so inspired hearing the stories. It just, wow, I want to know more. The success of any class is at the end of the class, the one mantra that tells you the class worked is, I want to know more. Prabhupada says, not cheap. Not that somebody comes on sentiment, oh, that's nice, I'll chant Hare Krishna, now I'll do something else. No, Prabhupada wanted intelligent people. When Prabhupada founded the movement in the 60s, the first wave to join, the Satsarup Maharajas, the Brahmanandas, the Gargamunis, the Kirtanandas, all college graduates. The second wave to join, all college dropouts. I was a weirdo because I got back from India and I went to graduate school. There were very few of us who did that. You know, Rabindra Sarup, a few others. That was very weird of us. We were kind of criticized quite a bit. Though Prabhupada certainly encouraged me that way. And then in the mid-70s, Prabhupada realized the problem that we're not attracting intellectuals. Krishna says in the Gita, yad yad charati straitas, whatever the great men do, the common men follow. So he formed the Bhaktivedanta Institute to be an intellectual center in order to encourage intelligent people. He wanted intelligent people. He wrote a letter to Rida Nanraj, who wanted to drop out of college to become a devotee because he was cleaning pots in the Berkeley Temple and selling sticks of incense on Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley. So Maharaj wrote him, should I continue my degree? And probably, yes, you must, because I want intelligent followers who can convince people. So you must finish your degree. But then the movement, he understood that first you need to cultivate detachment and devotional service. So he actually didn't go back to school until the late 80s. But that instruction was always in his mind, and then went on to his PhD. So the yoga system as described in the Bhagavatam, the Gita, or as recommended in the ontology process is different. This is the key words, is different from the nowadays practice hatha yoga as generally understood in the Western countries. I mean, Patanjali is trying to take us to love of God. What does that have to do with controlling the senses? Because the more we control the senses, the more freedom we have. And without freedom, you can't have love. You can't have your spouse go twist your arm behind your back and say, "Do you love me? Do you love me?" until your arm is aching. "Yes, I love you," or anything else you want. You can't take a gun to someone's head. It has to have freedom. The only way to get freedom is controlling the senses. That's real yoga. I've never been to a yoga class by non-devotees where the instructor says, "Today I'm going to teach you pranayams and postures, and at the end of the day, you'll control your senses better." In fact, my professor when I was at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute studying chemistry, but my real interest was philosophy. So I took any humanities elective I could, and I took Oriental philosophy by a very good professor who I'm very grateful to this day because he encouraged me to go to India. He says, "You'll never understand the Gita the way you want to without going to India." And I asked him a question. I said, "What do you get out of doing your yoga practices," which he was doing? It's kind of American guy who gravitated towards Buddhism. And he said the amazing words to me. He said, "Well, it improved my sex life quite a bit." And then I realized the futility of what he's saying when he had a lovely wife and divorced her, traded her in for a newer model, as we say. So he did not get the purpose of yoga. Again, I'm grateful he sent me to India, but he didn't understand the purpose. He also didn't understand the Gita very well, even though he was an erudite professor, wrote many books. There's one verse in the Gita, apicet tudachado. Even if one commits the most abominable activities, most abominable, if one is situated in devotional service, he's be considered rightly situated. I'm paraphrasing that. And I asked him, "What does that verse mean?" Because I was a very black and white thinker in those days, very, very black and white. I was opposed to the Vietnam War, so Nixon bad, hippies good, that kind of thing. And that verse was very anti-black and white. It was nuanced. So I asked the professor, "Can you explain this to me, Professor Kohler?" And he says, "It's intuitively obvious," which to translate that, he had no idea what it meant. He was totally clueless. Then I and I knew no Sanskrit. I didn't know the verse in Sanskrit, just in English. So then I go to India, and I had the good fortune of sitting with Prabhupada in Mayapur at the first Gaur Purnima festival. And the first verse Prabhupada quotes to me, knowing I know no Sanskrit, was that verse in Sanskrit, same verse, apicet tudacharo, and he turns to me, "So you know this?" The only verse I knew in English in the whole Gita, quite mystical. But the professor, he didn't understand it. Why? Because he couldn't control his senses at all. So real yoga is to control the senses, the next verse says. And after such control is established, to concentrate the mind on the Narayan form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So we're going to jump ahead the end of this paragraph. One who can control the tongue can also have control of the other senses. Prabhupada describes first you have the tongue, then you have the belly and genitals. It's all in a line. So first thing is control the tongue. How do we control the tongue? Well, first thing is we don't speak nonsense. We don't gossip. That's the negatives. We don't do these kind of things. Gossip is one of the worst things for devotional service. "Ooh, did you see so-and-so? He's having trouble chanting his rounds." Or I saw him having a cup of coffee or whatever. But one time president of Vrindavan Temple, who's a very good friend of mine, was at my house in Gainesville. And I had some devotee construction workers doing some repairs. And this particular devotee particularly liked non-alcoholic beer. Now, non-alcoholic beer, there's nothing bad about it. There's no alcohol. It's hops and grains, and he particularly liked it. So I always kept some around for him. And there's 4 brands in America have 0 alcohol in it. So I'd keep a variety for him. The president of Vrindavan Temple came. It was a very hot day. I said, would you like something cold? He says, yeah, the only thing I have that's cold is non-alcoholic beer. He goes, great idea. Haven't had one in a long time. So we both have our bottle of non-alcoholic beer. Another devotee rings my doorbell. I said, come on in. Would you like a non-alcoholic beer? I emphasize the non-alcoholic part. He says, actually, I don't like the flavor, but you guys go ahead. That's fine. Next thing I know, on his Facebook page, there, BRAHMA-TIRTHA, president of Vrindavan, I was there with him and they're drinking beer. Kind of nonsense thing. So that's the misuse of the tongue. Rumors, that's why social media is so bad. There's no filter. It's all misuse of the tongue. Total misuse of the tongue is what social media becomes, gossip. Any idiot can become a journalist and say anything. There's every possible conspiracy theory. It can be pretty nasty out there. So first thing is control the tongue by not saying nonsense, either on social media or talking, any kind of gossip. Basically, I'm trying to say social media is mostly gossip. So we don't do the negative. The positive is we talk about Krishna. We chant Hare Krishna. We encourage people. Doesn't mean I have to walk up to someone and they ask me, what time is it? And I go, you want to know what time it is? It's Krishna time. No, they want to know what time it is. I tell them what time it is. I'm respectful. That's disrespectful. That's not Krishna conscious. That's silliness. I've shared this story before, but in the early days, one devotee baked a joint, and he had one of these racks where you put a harmonica in. And he had it around his neck, and he put in there the Maha Mantra. And all day, he would be looking at the mantra, chanting. You think that's nice? It wasn't nice. Because anytime somebody said, can you help clean the temple room floor? Can you wash a pot? Can you do this? No, I'm chanting Hare Krishna. He lasted 3 days and never came back. That's the danger. So the point here, we control the tongue by not speaking nonsense, by speaking of Krishna, but doing it in a devotional mood, which Prabhupada says one cannot allow the tongue to take all kinds of forbidden food and drink, same time advance. That was be a vegetarian. I was in a village in India, and it was a mixed town. Some Christians, there were Adavasis, natives, they call them native people. They would convert to Christianity to get out of the caste system. Then there was Muslims and Hindus and one Buddhist. The one Buddhist will be significant in a minute. You'll see why. The Buddhist was a teacher at the same school where I was teaching. So one day, a yogi came to town 10 years before I got there. And the yogi gave a good talk, people told me, mostly to the Hindu audience. He said, you are not this body. Okay, we can live with that. The animals aren't this body. We can live with that. Therefore, you can eat them. And all the Hindus overnight became non-veg. And this one Buddhist and me were the only 2 vegetarians in a whole town of 10,000 people. Horrible, horrible. That's a true story. One time, the local town people invited me to go to a festival. They're having a big festival at midnight. So I went, what's going on? Some festival at midnight. Okay, past my bedtime, but I'll go. And there was a goat, and there was a so-called Brahmin, and he had a knife. And I watched him whisper in the goat's ear, I'm not kidding, I can kill you. I'm killing you this life. You get me next life. And he's about to slit the throat, and I split. It was an offer to Kali. You can't call that yoga. at all. We read about these things. I actually was there. I mean, I didn't have the heart to watch him kill the goat, but it was just horrible. I asked the local people, "What's he whispering in the goat's ear?" And they told me. And the local people think that this is wonderful. Why? They think it's wonderful because they're going to have a big feast afterwards of goat. So it's very regrettable that many authorized so-called yogis come to Western country and exploit people's inclination towards yoga practice. Such unauthorized yogis even dare to say publicly that one can indulge in the habit of drinking at the same time practice meditation. Now, if I meet someone who's drinking, I don't condemn them. I try to add Krishna to their life. It's not that we're condemning someone who's eating meat or drinking or gambling. Rather, by adding Krishna gradually, they're going to give up their bad habits. But we never, never in the name of yoga say oh, that's fine what you're doing. We may not condemn them. We don't want to make people feel judged who are coming, but we never say, oh, that's okay in the name of yoga. That's what Prabhupada saw. Remember, he wrote this in the late 60s when yoga was really taking off in America, and he was seeing this left and right. After Prabhupada came to America, then yogis started coming left and right. Prabhupada was the first one in the 60s to really come. I mean, Yogananda and others had come earlier and left, but Prabhupada was the first one to make a huge impact. Then after that, the visas started getting easier. Prabhupada had struggled, but by 67, 68, visas from Indians was starting to open up. And so the yogis started coming, and one yogi, he had 70 Rolls Royces in his fleet. And when he went back to his hometown in India, in Pune, the local people actually stoned him. They threw stones at him because he had so misrepresented their tradition. When Prabhupada went back to Vrindavan, Prabhupada was a poor man living in Vrindavan. He used to ride around on a bicycle in Vrindavan. He would beg a little money, go to Delhi, go to the printer, write his Bhagavatam, type it out, go to the typesetter, buy the paper with whatever money he could beg or borrow, print his Bhagavatams, go back to Vrindavan. Just a poverty-stricken man in Vrindavan, just doing pure devotional service. And then when he came back with what he called his first disciples, Prabhupada referred to us as dancing white elephants. And we're so awkward. When you see an elephant at a circus dancing, they're quite awkward. So that was us. Came back, and the mayor of Vrindavan greets him. Thousands of people come to cheer their hometown boy who made it a success in the West, introducing, and people in Vrindavan understand what's real and what's not, introducing their legitimate culture. Prabhu was cheered. When this other yogi, with his 70 Rolls Royce, went back to Pune, the local people stoned him. It really happened. And I can tell story after story like that, but we'll go on. I leave the names of these yogis out because no point mentioning their names, but they're not people that I would want to hang around with. I went once to hear one yogi speak in the early 70s in New York. He had many followers. His family comes from Dehradun, and one of my good friends who became a devotee lived in Dehradun and knew that his whole family, what we call carnies. In America, carnies are people who go to carnivals and rip people off. They have these games where you throw a ball, and if you throw the ball and it knocks over a glass, you win a big teddy bear. But all the glasses are weighted, and the guy sitting there throws a ball and the glass goes right over. That's the only unweighted glass. It's a cheating thing. They're called carnies, carnival people. So this whole family, going back generations, were carnies. So he came to the West, and he had this technique where he presses your eyeball. And when you press the eyeball, you can do it right now. You'll see a flash of white light as you activate your optic nerve. So he would tell people as he presses their eyeball, he's enlightening them. And I went with another devotee. We were curious what he was doing because he had many followers. And he was at that time 14 years old, chubby guy. And so this devotee and I went, senior devotee, we wanted to know what is it he's doing. We're curious because he had followers. So he goes there and he gives a very good talk on the Gita. You're not this body, or as I like to say now, you're more than this body. And he goes on, and one should surrender to Krishna. I mean, I'm sitting there listening, and I turn to my friend. I say, this guy's getting it right. What's wrong with him? And then at the end, he says, so you surrender to Krishna. And by the way, I'm Krishna. And then I realized what a fraud he was. So this is what Prabhupada was putting up with. Because I'm Krishna. If he's Krishna, we're really in bigger trouble than if I'm CIA. So I'm going to jump ahead a few paragraphs because we're getting short of time. And I'm going to go ahead to a person in full Krishna conscious, a few paragraphs ahead, acts by the dictation of Krishna. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, this is a very important point for all of us personally. Dictation is received through the medium of the spiritual master. In the beginning, when one is sufficiently trained and acts in submissive faith and love for Krishna, under the direction of the bona fide guru, the dovetailing process comes firm and accurate. This stage of devotional service by the devotee is the most perfect stage of the yoga system. At this stage, Krishna within the heart dictates from within, while without, the devotee is helped by the guru, who's a bona fide representative. So what does this mean? In the beginning of devotional service, we just do what the guru says. But later on, as we become purified and as we control our senses, Krishna in our heart is telling us what to do. I'm a big believer in the Greyhound bus company. Those of you in America will be familiar with the Greyhound bus company. They're not so big anymore, but at one time, they were the only company to take a bus from one city to another. Not within the city, but the intercity bus company. And the Greyhound bus had my favorite motto they used to use. And that motto is exactly what is being said herein. Does anybody know the motto of the Greyhound bus company? Anybody know? We'll put in the chat or something. Here's the motto of it. Take the bus and leave the driving to us.
Yeah.
That is the Greyhound
Yeah.
book. So as we advance, Krishna in our heart starts giving us more and more instruction. You can understand this very easily by the old analog radio. Those of you who have an AM radio, they're still out there. Most radios are FM, and most people now listen by streaming on the internet. But you still have the AM radio. And in order to get the station, you have to turn the tuning knob. And you have to get it exactly at the station. If you're a little bit off, then you're getting a lot of noise and just a lot of static and a little bit of signal. So you tune it till you get the right point. Then the signal is so much stronger than the noise. You can hear what's being said or what's being sung. So similarly, in the beginning stage, our static is so great that we can't get the signal. And as we purify ourselves and control our mind and engage in devotional service under the guidance of our mentors, then slowly the noise decreases and the signal increases. And that's what's being described herein. This is the signal to noise ratio. So this stage of devotional service is the most perfect stage of the yoga system. At this stage, Krishna, or the super soul, dictates from within, while from without, the devotee is helped by the guru, who's a bona fide representative of Krishna. From within, he helps the devotee as Chaita, for he is seated within the heart of everyone. Understanding that God is seated within everyone's heart is not, very important, sufficient. One has to be acquainted with God from both within and without, and one must take dictation from within and without to act in Christian consciousness. This is the perfection. Because if we just act from within, we may be acting on whim. We may think it's Krishna speaking to us, but it's not. And if we act just without, then we're not engaged in the process of connecting with Super Soul. So it has to be that balance. Prabhupada, in one sense, is presenting what I call a Buddhist type view of the world. Remember, the Buddha was one of the Das avatars. What was the Buddha's one of his main teachings? The middle way. That means you balance things, you look at nuances. Here, Prabhupada is balancing. Yes, without and within, not just one, not just the other. Krishna does that in the Gita. He says, don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little. Don't eat too much, don't eat too little. One time, Kirtananda Vrindavan was telling everyone, okay, you can only have, 3 chapatis, no more. So somebody went to Prabhupada, said, Prabhupada, is it true that we're only supposed to eat 3 chapatis? Kirtananda says so. Prabhupada says, you can have all the chapatis you want, because Prabhupada wants us to eat a lot of prasad to purify ourselves. But Kirtananda, he can only have 3 chapatis. Yeah. So one man's food's another man's poison. So in the early days, Prabhupada wanted to just stuff ourselves with prasadam till we bust. Then later on, okay, control your senses, not too much. So the different times. So we're just going to go to the last paragraph in this. By the way, I recommend all of you read this whole purport. It's so well written. I want to give you the context of this purport being written not long after Prabhupada came to America and observed the scene. Yoga necessitates controlling the senses, and bhakti yoga, or Krishna conscious, is a process of purifying the senses. When the senses are purified, they are automatically controlled. That's why we eat prasadam, to purify the senses. And there's a time when we can never eat enough prasadam, and there's another time when we can never eat too little. As we get older, our digestion, I don't have the digestion. I remember, I'd be at a Sunday feast when I was 25. I could eat 20 glub jamuns and still be alive. Now, if I eat one of them, it's a bust. So different times, different. There's a saying, different slopes for different folks, and that applies to us as our body changes through our life. So when the senses are purified, they're automatically controlled. One cannot stop the activity of the senses by artificial means, but if one purifies by engaging in service, the senses not only can be controlled from rubbish engagement, but, and this but is the key word, can be engaged in the Lord's transcendental service as inspired by the 4 Kumaras. Krishna consciousness is not therefore a manufactured concoction of the speculative mind, is a process enjoyed in the Gita, Manmava Bhakta, Man Bhakto Mad Yaji Mam Namaskaru, just surrender to me, is the essence of that verse. So with that point, I've used up more time than I'm supposed to. Let me stop there, see if there are any questions, comments, criticisms, reflections, anything anybody would like to ask about. We can turn off the screen share now. Anybody have anything they'd like to ask? There's only a few minutes left. A lot of material to cover here, but my purpose was to give a context so it makes sense to you.
Okay.
Well, we can,
Okay,
if the moderator could put off the screen share so I could see more people. Thank you, thank you. And if anybody at the end is no longer just sitting in their underwear, you can turn on your camera. I can see you too. I assume that
Well,
those who have the camera off are sitting in their underwear, so that's okay. I don't want to see you.
well, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this. I would say interactive Krishna Katha. Let me do this. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections, please. Prabhuji, I have this quick question for you. That is, excuse me, talking about yoga, and you beautifully explained that you are not against yoga. We are not against yoga. We encourage everybody from wherever they are at. But you also mentioned that there was, I don't remember exactly who, but at a point you were saying that somebody was saying that he is practicing yoga. He's not a body. It's not a body. You are not a body. We are not a body. And therefore we can consume meat because we are not a body. Now, I see sometimes in devotional service, some devotees believe that we have to meet people at whatever level they may be at. In other words, if somebody is a meat eater, we should not tell the person to give up meat eating, but we can be with this person. And unfortunately, sometimes some of these devotees can even ask that particular individual that if you are meat eater, okay, go ahead and then eat meat and still chant. There is no problem. Eat, chant. Or if somebody wants some sort of psychic powers, you can do that and still chant. Now, my question is, Sri Prabhupada, he brought us the teachings, and he understands it better than all of us when Krishna says that there are 4 classes of men that approach him. But when he gave us Krishna consciousness, he did not tell us that if someone is interested in money, let him do this particular ritual or process to get money. If someone wants intelligence, he should do this particular ritual to have intelligence. So my question to you in the gist is, how do we understand what Krishna says in the Gita, that there are 4 classes of beings that approach him, and we being devotees are accepting everybody from wherever they are and being with them as devotees? What do we do in this situation?
Well, it's a nice question, something I think about too. And I look how Prabhupada dealt with it. When he met with priests, or actually Cardinal Danilou, who argued that we should be eating meat, Prabhupada was like a lion. And then the cardinal 2 weeks later was found dead in the bed of a prostitute because he couldn't accept any of Prabhupada's arguments. So a fallen person. But when I told Prabhupada, when I went to India, I wasn't vegetarian, but I became vegetarian. I said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I'm vegetarian now." And he looked at me and said, "So is the pigeon and the monkey's a big troublemaker." It burst my pride about being vegetarian. Prabhupada didn't say, "Jai, wonderful." So there is no litmus test. One, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't vegetarian until the day before he got initiated. So I don't judge. If somebody comes to me, they're not vegetarian, I'm not judging them. I just want to add Krishna to their life. Then automatically their heart will become purified. As their heart becomes purified, they become more compassionate, and they realize it's a nasty business to kill animals. It's a nasty business to kill anyone. But soldiers have a duty sometimes to do that. So, sometimes Kshatriyas have a duty to practice their skills, even against animals. So it's not all so black and white. Um, so if somebody comes, wants to know more about Krishna, and they're a drinker, they're a meat eater, they're whatever, um, I speak to them according to where they're at. But what I want to do is I want to speak to them, not at them. There's a big difference. If I'm speaking at them, I'm preaching to myself. If I'm speaking to them, I'm being a personalist. And Prabhupada wasn't, if somebody, like when Shama Sundar, the original Shama Sundar, was carving Jagannath deities, he was a very good craftsman. And he had a pack of cigarettes on the floor. So he's carving Jagannath deities while smoking. Of course, it's a habit. Prabhupada didn't say a word to him. He just took his cane, flicked the cigarettes to the other side of the room, and didn't say a word. And then people in the original temple, they were very addicted to smoking. Prabhupada said, okay, smoke behind the temple, not inside. So Prabhupada, so I meet people, meat eaters, whatever it is. My business isn't to judge them. My business is to encourage them. So that's the key. And that's how Prabhupada dealt. But when he met Cardinal Danilou, among others, who was really arguing in the name of Christ, one should eat meat, Prabhupada smashed him because that was using religion for nonsense. But generally, Prabhupada, when he was with people, wasn't smashing them for these things. And one time, Prabhupada was on an airplane with Jayatirtha sitting next to him in first class. And Jayatirtha told me this story. And in first class, when the plane takes off, the flight attendant comes out and serves a drink. So they serve champagne. And Jayatirtha wouldn't taste the drink until Prabhupada had his. And Jayatirtha thought it was ginger ale. So Prabhupada sips. Then Jayatirtha took his, said, Prabhupada, that's champagne. And Prabhupada just laughed. It was very funny. They thought it was ginger ale, took a little champagne. It wasn't like, Prabhupada beat himself up, beat up the flight attendant. So there's a funny thing happens. So we have to be a little more relaxed in dealing with these things. We're not there to make people feel judged. We're there to make people feel welcome. And the way we do it is we keep ourselves pure. And by example. Example is way more important than talking. Does that answer your question, Dave?
Yes, it
Okay.
answers my question, and it answers the question so beautifully. But what the angle I was coming from is not personal. For example, I have my own personal challenges. And so
welcome to the human race. Me too.
So
welcome to the human race here.
If there is any concentration at all, I try to concentrate on my own challenges and how to better them. But because we belong to an organization, and the organization has its principles and regulations. And therefore, I am thinking that if I begin to practice my spiritual life according to the way I feel convenient and appropriate to practice. And again, claim that that is what Hare Krishna or ISKCON stands for. That is where I have a problem, because I'm thinking that my style of doing things, my way of doing things should not become the standardized process of the organization or the institution. And that is where I'm coming from. Therefore, if I find someone eating meat, I'm not going to judge the person that you are eating meat, you're going to hell. No. But at the same time, if someone decides to live in the temple, and I say to the person that, well, we're all struggling. You can stay here and you eat meat. The right time will come, you will give it up. I think that is inappropriate. So that is why I asked the question I asked. It's not personal, but institution.
Well, institutionally, I mean, when I go to a Catholic church, I dress appropriately, how they like. When I go to a mosque or a Hindu temple, I take off my shoes. I'm respectful. When I go to a Jewish synagogue, I cover my head. It's just respectful. If somebody comes to a Hare Krishna temple, they're not going to walk in with McDonald's. Sometimes the anti-cultists we say we capture these people, we don't let them leave. And when I've confronted them, I said all they have to do if they want to leave is walk to the McDonald's down the block, go buy one of their burgers, walk into the temple. And there's no question of us keeping them prisoner. The question is how quickly do we throw them out? So it's natural respect. There's I do a lot of mediation work, and in it, I play a song. I can even play it for you. It might not be time now, but there's one song that I use a lot in mediation. And the song is by this famous American singer, originally a gospel singer named Aretha Franklin. You've heard of her?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And the
She passed
song is
away.
called, yes, she did. And the song is called Respect. And she spells it Respect. Beautiful song. And I played that in mediations because that's what respect is. So if somebody comes to a Christian temple, there's rules we follow. I have to accept that there's someone else and follow our rules. When I go to India, I drive on the left side of the road. And when I first went there, I had a little 60cc Honda because I was an itinerant teacher, travel around. And by instinct, I would drive on the right side of the road. And it was pretty chaotic for me because all the roads in India were chaotic. So who knows? But in India, I better drive on the left side.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
So it's just respect.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make people feel judged. If somebody comes, I want to stay in a Christian temple, but I am not, I can't follow the rules here. Then I work with them. What can you do? Maybe you live outside and visit, maybe this, but I don't want to make them ever feel judged. I want to make them feel comfortable. But when they're in the temple, they say, I have to go to bed at 2 in the morning and sleep till noon. That's not the right place for them. It'll be disruptive.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make them feel judged or bad about it. I just encourage them.
Yeah.
Okay. I see I got 2 hands raised. I'll begin with Gul.
Yes.
Hi. My question is about controlling the senses. Now, do we accept that senses are neurological, means through the nervous system?
Yes.
Okay. How do you control your nerves and do you have to deprive them?
What a nice question. What a nice question. Go. Is there anything more you want to
Well,
add?
okay, and yeah, but I mean, what is the brain box that controls the senses? Is it the brain or is it, I mean, it's
Uh,
not, yeah. I
uh,
get
uh,
what
uh,
you're saying, but what's the technique or technology, and this amounts to depriving the senses, and reaction.
oh, I'd love that question. I have an illustration I'm pulling up that will explain all of this. This illustration uh, is found in the let me see. This same illustration is found in very ancient Vedic literature, and it's repeated again in the Bhagavad Gita. It's that important an illustration. I'm pulling it up here on my other screen. Let me see. There's many versions of it. Let me find the version that I like, and that will answer your question the way I can tell you it's such a good question, and the reason I can say it's such a good question is because uh, Krishna asked the same question. Arjuna, I meant, asked the same question of Krishna. So any question that Arjuna asks of Krishna has to be a good question. So we'll share a screen and show
Yes,
you.
you have the sharing rights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. I feel important now. I got these rights. Okay. So we see here, these senses are like five horses. Here there's only two, but five horses. And the mind is the reins, and the intelligence is the driver, and we are the passenger, and the chariot is our body. So if these senses are not controlled by the mind, and our intelligence doesn't tell the mind to control the senses, then these five horses can go in any direction, and we are in a very scared position. It's like being on a roller coaster without a seatbelt, and very scared. But if the intelligence here controls the mind by pulling on it, then the mind interacts with the brain. And that's one thing we study at the Bhaktivedanta Institute. We have a subdivision institute called Institute of Mind, Intelligence, and Consciousness Studies, IMIX. And the brain is just neurons firing. It's not doing anything. The mind is inhabiting the brain. Just like you take a computer, it does nothing, but a programmer programs it, it can do something. So the intelligence is the programmer. And the mind then can pull on these with the reins, pull on the horses and control it. And then we're in good shape. Now, none of us, at least I speak for myself, maybe doesn't apply to everyone, but none of us are expert at always controlling the senses. That's okay, but at least we're trying. Prabhupada said 150 times at least. I counted myself. Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. So gradually we're learning how our intelligence, how we get the intelligence engaged by right now sitting together, talking, asking questions like you do. And then our intelligence pulls on the reins and controls the mind. This very example is found, oh God, it slips my mind which Veda it's found in. It's found in the very earliest of the Vedas and repeated again in the Upanishads and repeated again in the Gita. It's a very important example in the Vedic literature. So our job then is to pull on the reins of the mind. The brain is going to be firing neurons, but when a neuron fires, I'm looking at you and you have a brownish background in your room. And so when I see a brownish background, where does brown come from? I mean, some light is shooting from my screen and it's going into my retina, sending an electric signal. that electric signal goes to a part of my brain. There's no place that there's brown there, but my mind then can deal with these electrical impulses and determine that it's brown. Actually, when I see a picture of any of you on my screen, the number of pixels that my brain sees is a very, very small number. It's not enough for a clear picture, but our mind fills it in. Actually, it's been studied because we can really dissect the brain now. Just like you have a camera that has very few pixels, you get blurry pictures. And you get the new modern iPhones that have gigabytes of pixels or whatever, you get very sharp pictures. Well, the brain has very few pixels, but we still see things very clearly because our mind is filling in. So the brain is transmitting a certain amount of information, but it's clearly not enough. And the mind takes over and fills it in and fills in the blanks. And therefore, I'm looking at a screen and seeing all this. Does that help you, Gul, with the answer?
It helps. Yes, thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you. That is exactly the question Arjuna asked Krishna. And Krishna said, by the way, Arjuna goes, I can't control the mind. I control the wind. It's a lot easier. No one can control the wind. And Krishna says, don't worry, with patience, determination, you will succeed. Okay, last question from Sriman Varaha-acharya, and it's a very auspicious day because today is your namesake's appearance day. So Sriman Varaha-acharya, please appear and ask me your question. Now you're appearing on your appearance day. This is very good.
Okay, good.
What is your question, my friend?
Hare Krishna.
Well, I don't hear you. Somehow the sound isn't getting through. Sadev, do you hear him?
Your sound is quite blurry. It's not very clear.
Maybe now. Okay, now it's working. That was my fault. That was my fault. My computer blipped. Okay, Sadev,
go ahead.
Vraha, try again. It's working now.
Okay, thank you. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to the Prabhupada.
Yes,
Thank you very much. It's always enlightening to hear from you, Prabhu. We are very grateful for your presence. Well, the pastime of Srila Prabhupada on flight to Jayatita, that's what I want some clarification. So first I want to know if this is the same Jayatita in England in the early days, or it's another Jayatita. That's the first thing I want to know. Is the same Jayatita that had some unfortunate ending?
Shrimad Prabhu, I couldn't get what you were asking because...
Yeah, I couldn't, the sound wasn't so good.
Yeah, because I'm driving, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's saying that the Jayatita Prabhu just mentioned. Is he the same Jayatita who had that unfortunate end?
Yes, the same Jayatita. He was a very nice guy, but then his senses got out of control and he ended up violating a significant principle of intoxication and then really fell down. But a very nice person, but sometimes even very nice people, things don't always work well. And he ended up in a bad place. And eventually he was murdered.
So my question is, when we try to imitate the area, because it's so bad accepting the champagne, then he later thought that it's okay to take drugs. So isn't that a pitfall to think that because Prabhupada did that, people also do it? That's my question.
Yeah, his question is about Jayatita Prabhu, I think it was Maharaj at some point, with Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada on the plane, first class, and they both were served with champagne. Srila Prabhupada didn't know it was champagne. They thought it was ginger ale.
Yeah.
But later on, when Srila Prabhupada knew, he wasn't kind of like killing himself over that. he just let it slide. But
he
is
actually laughed.
asking,
He actually laughed.
okay,
He thought it was pretty funny.
yeah. So he is asking, could that be a contributing factor to Jyotirtha thinking that after Srila Prabhupada drank it, there was nothing wrong, so I can also go ahead and then drink it?
No. Jayatirtha told me he felt very bad because he wouldn't drink anything till Prabhupada took it because he, the etiquette, let Prabhupada take first. Then when he immediately took a little sip, realized champagne, he says, "Oh, Prabhupada, this is champagne." And neither one of them drank anymore.
Okay.
So that wasn't the cause of it. The cause of Jayatirtha's thing was much more complicated. It had nothing to do with that. And he told me that incident. I was with him in 1977 in Vrindavan, and he had flown with Prabhupada recently, and 6 months before, and he told me that story. And again, Prabhupada had a sense of humor about these things. Um, so, sometimes accidentally these things happen. One time, Prabhupada is Ekadasi. Today's Ekadasi here. I don't know where all of you are.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes on Ekadasi, they wouldn't use hing because they put rice into the hing. You don't eat any of the rice just to keep the moisture out so it doesn't cake. And they wouldn't put hing in. And probably thought that was kind of fanatical. You're not eating the rice. Rice is just absorbing the moisture. You take the little powder out, you don't take the rice out. And he thought that was kind of fanatical. Yeah, so we can be more, there's a saying, don't be holier than the Pope. So don't be more fanatical than Prabhupada. Prabhupada was clearly not a fanatic, not at all. And like I told the story before, when I very proud and pompously told Prabhupada I become vegetarian, he scoffed at me. Yeah. So is the monkey who's a rascal, he said. So it depends on the time, place, as we know, and circumstance. No, but that wasn't what happened with Jayatirtha was a sad story. We're all a bunch of kids then. If any of you read Lord of the Flies by Golding, the best anti-war book I know, some of you may be familiar with it. It discusses this phenomenon. A bunch of kids get stranded on an island and they kind of really become almost savage after a while. And they're rescued by a British warship. A ship had crashed, and all these kids became only people that survived was a lifeboat with the children. Everyone else died. So they formed groups and how to survive, and eventually became pretty savage. Then a British warship was on a hunt and destroy mission to kill the enemy and saw smoke. So the captain went ashore with a boat, and he saw that these kids had become kind of savage, and he was so embarrassed. He says, "You're British children. How could you stoop so low as to try to kill each other?" Meanwhile, the captain was on a mission to kill other people. Anti-war book. And so when Prabhupada left, we were a bunch of kids. So sometimes it was difficult. I met with a religious scholar, and every year there's some embarrassment in the movement. Something embarrassing happens. I have 50 years of this, it never fails. So I was saying with this very prominent scholar, so embarrassing, this recent scandal, I don't even remember what it was. I said, our poor movement. He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, it's so embarrassing." He says, "All the movements that began, yours is a survivor. You're still here. You're growing. You're doing well. You're the success story, not the failure. But the Royal Road will have potholes in it. So our Royal Road will have potholes." Jayatirtha was sadly a very nice person, but one of those potholes. He wasn't up for that service. But I give him credit for what he did. And then he had trouble and left. That happened to many, and then many survived. So, and everything that happened, turns out if we read the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada discusses this in the 5th canto. He says, when the great Acharya leaves, there'll be chaos. What things that happen. So it's quite predictable. For example, it was very predictable that one time the Spanish were the richest country in the world, all the gold from the New World. They were the most powerful country. And then one day they weren't. Then all the wealth moved to Amsterdam. The Dutch became the most powerful country in the world. And then one day it wasn't. Then all the wealth moved to Britain. Under the United Kingdom, the sun never set on the British Empire was a saying. Then it wasn't. Now America became, after World War II, the most powerful country in the world, and maybe soon it won't be. So time changes things. It changes. So our goal is to be transcendental to these ups and downs. So sometimes some devotee will be very successful and then fall away, and somebody's very humble and becomes very successful. So we have to take instruction from the external manifestation, the Guru, and the internal manifestation, Krishna, to survive the waves that are coming. Sometimes we're on the ocean, it's very stormy, and the waves are coming and the ship is rocking. But if we're very secure in our devotional service, we survive it and it doesn't bother us. Annoys us, but doesn't hurt our faith. That's my lesson from a half a century. And believe me, I've seen everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I am so lucky by the grace of my mentors and God brothers and all of you, I'm still here serving Prabhupada. So I'm the lucky one. With that, we'll end here. It's always a pleasure to be with this particular saga. I will try to see you all tomorrow.
Can I ask one quick question?
Of course, my friend.
Okay, thank you so much for accepting my question. I've heard several times from several devotees that there was once a very powerful guru who wanted one devotee wanted to take him as his guru, and he will go to him, he will not give him initiation. He will go to him, he will not give him initiation. And then one time he wanted to demonstrate to him why he was not giving him initiation. So they cooked the most beautiful, wonderful, delicious meal, and then he served the meal in a very filthy, dirty plate. And asked the aspirant, are you going to eat this wonderful food meal from this dirty, filthy plate? And he says, no. And so he says, I've not given you initiation up to this point because your heart is not clean. And the Supreme Lord, God, does not enter into a heart that is dirty. Now, many people say it in a different way, that if our hearts are dirty, God is not going to come and enter into it. But the question is, we're talking about this Paramatma, the yogis, they do meditation, and they see the Lord within. Whether we perform devotional service or not, even the worm in the stool, the super soul is there. So what do we mean when we say that our hearts are impure, therefore God will not come and enter or live in our hearts when he is already there as the super soul?
I don't agree that God doesn't enter our heart. What I agree with, it's always there. Krishna is in our heart. He doesn't not go. The problem is the signal noise ratio. If our hearts are contaminated with various desires, then we don't see the Lord within our heart, but he never leaves us. He's always there. We're never alone. Never, never, never. But we feel alone because we're covered. It's like you take a light bulb and you wrap it up in cloth. There's very little light to be seen. And if you put enough cloth, you'll see no light. But the light is still there. The bulb is on, the light's there, it's just covered. So we're just covered. So our business is to uncover, but it's a gradual process. And sometimes we uncover and then it gets a little covered again, then we uncover. And when one devotee went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I'm having so much trouble, I keep falling down. I don't know what he was falling down with, but whatever, it doesn't make a difference. And he says, I can't do devotional service. I keep falling down. Prabhupada said, you're like a child. When they're learning to walk, they always fall down. But eventually, if they stick to it, they're going to stand up and walk. So similarly, if you stick to it, you'll stand up and walk. So the key is stick to it. What's the secret of sticking to it? There's one secret above all other secrets of sticking to it, above everything else. At least that's my understanding. And that is good company, good association. And if you associate with people who are pure-hearted, not judging you, trying to encourage you, then you will make progress. For example, you're at Gita Nagari, I think.
Yes.
So one of my dearest, closest friends
Sarvatma?
is, of course, Sarvatma and Divyananda. In fact, Divyananda, way before she met Sarvatma, got initiated at my house in the 80s. And then Sarvatma and I have been friends since 79. So sometimes I'm lamenting, oh, this is too difficult for me. What do I do? So I call him up. How do I deal with this? He calls me up. Oh, it's so difficult. I this and that problem. What do I do? So we reveal our mind in confidence. And then it helps a lot. And he's a strong personality, as you know, but he's very Krishna conscious. So I can trust him. He can trust me. We don't judge each other. We tease each other a lot, but we don't judge each other. I mean, you know, and so that is how we deal with this issue that you're bringing up. And the worst thing devotees can do is start judging each other. Oh, I mean, I make opinions on who I want to associate with, but I'm not judging, oh, everyone is so bad. I'm saying this is association that inspires me and this doesn't. I'm making intelligent decisions. It's the same thing. I'm driving on the road and there's some driver who's driving reckless. I'm not going to drive near him. He's weaving in and out of lanes. I slow down. I wait until the police catch him later, and I go slow. I don't want to drive near somebody driving reckless. So I don't want to associate intimately with somebody who's maybe doing some devotional service but being very reckless. I'm not strong enough to deal with that. So I stay away. But somebody, if I'm on the highway, there's bad weather, everything's rough, snowstorm like you're having now, and I'm stuck driving, and I find a very safe car behind. It's a big SUV with four-wheel drive and lights all over it. I'm going to fall behind that car and follow it because that's the safest place to be. So similarly, I'll associate with people are a safe place to be for me. It's not a judgment call, it's an intelligence call. That help you, Sahadev?
I love it so much. Yes, I love it
Okay,
so much.
so you see
Yeah.
Sarvatma, give him my greetings.
I will do that. But
And then-
Prabhuji, I've apologized, but I guess my wife just alerted me that Govinda, our Garuda, had his hand up. I didn't see.
I missed it. I didn't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah,
up
I
there.
also didn't see it, but that's what she said. So Govinda Prabhu, if you had something to say, please, can you
Of
quickly
course.
say?
You have something to ask, Govinda?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you
Okay,
very
Hare
much. Please accept my respectful obeisances.
Yes.
All glories to you, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to the assembled devotees. Prabhuji, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. I have a question. The question is in connection with Sadhu Prabhu's first question, and it's concerning the four kinds of people that surrenders to Krishna. We understand that those who are searching for knowledge, these are the first class. seekers. But as a devotees, we are like doctors. And the doctor, a surgical doctor, know exactly where to cut and to get the patient safe and get him health, get his health back again. And so we know exactly what are the needs for every living entity. But here we go. The four kinds of people that are looking for Krishna. The three has come to me. One is looking for wealth, and he's desperately looking for wealth. And he has come to me as a devotee. And as a devotee, I know that one has to bring Krishna into his life under all circumstances. So wealth is not bad. Education is not bad. Once we bring Krishna into the factor. So what do we do? Someone has come to me and is looking for wealth. He's desperately looking for money and has come to me as a devotee. Do I step down to his level and teach him the process, the mantras, the rituals, whatever is required for one to be rich? Do I have to step down to his level and give him this kind of education?
Well, that's why I like coming to this class, because they're good questions. Uh, okay, Govinda, it's complicated in the sense of four kinds of people that come, but they're all pious, even the people that come from money. And I asked Prabhupada, what if a thief prays to Krishna? And Prabhupada says, well, that's a good thing. At least he's praying. So all the four kinds of people that come, there's some piety. That's what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. Now, if somebody comes to me and asks for money, it's easy. I don't have any. Everything I have is in my institute. I don't even get a stipend. And so that's easy. I'm broke. Okay, Krishna's blessed me with that. And that's easy. If somebody comes to me and they're hungry, I'm going to make sure they're always fed. I always have enough to eat, and sometimes too much. So I never turn down people who are hungry. Even on the street, Prabhupada would give a few pies to beggars. I keep some yogi bars with me, and when beggars ask for money, I give them a yogi bar. You know, so we try to be compassionate yet not foolish. So if somebody comes to you and they want money, well, that means they're approaching Krishna for money. I'll give them guidance. You know, there's a saying in fundraising. There's a very good saying for fundraising. If you want money, ask somebody for advice. And if you want a donor, you ask the donor for advice if you want money. And if you want advice, ask the donor for money. So you ask the donor for money, you're going to get a lot of advice. And ask the donor for advice, you'll probably get a lot of money. That's an old fundraising saying. So somebody comes to you for money, give them advice. That's okay, but we don't give away money foolishly. I hope that answers your question, Govinda. But they're coming, we're kind to people, but not foolish. One time, one devotee, early days, went to Prabhupada, said, Prabhupada, I want $1 to buy a gallon of gas so I can pour it on me so I can kill myself. And so Prabhupada said, go see the treasurer. So he went to see the treasurer on 2nd Avenue. I need $1 to buy a gallon of gasoline so I can pour it on myself and light on fire. And the treasurer said, sorry, we have no money today. Of course, he didn't do anything. And Prabhupada knew he wasn't going to. So sometimes, we can't be foolish. If we gave him $1, I don't think he would have killed himself, but that would have been kind of a dumb thing to do. I never give money to the beggars on the street who are alcoholics. I wouldn't think of it because I know what they're going to do with it. But I will give them a prasadam yogi bar. So we're kind, but not stupid. And sometimes we can be stupid, but not kind. So we have to balance that. I hope that helps you, Govinda. But you asked a very similar question to what Arjuna asked. So anytime you ask a question that's the same kind of question Arjuna asked of Krishna, you know it's a very bona fide question. Because our Arjuna want to know what kind of people approach Krishna and how do we deal with them? What kind of people approach you, Krishna, and how do we deal with it? And Krishna answered him quite explicitly. So with that, we've gone on almost 2 hours, and
Yes.
I think that
Yes.
that maybe that's enough for today.
That is enough. Yes.
Yeah,
Prabhuji.
I so appreciate being here. I will try to listen tomorrow to read Anand Raj on Lord Nityananda.
Yes.
I wish you all a joyous Vraha appearance day, and I'm so happy to see you all. If any of you want to write me personally and ask a question, I value each and every one of you. I see you every month, and I'm glad to answer your question. And Dave, send me your question you have in an email. Then I'll be on top of it. I'll answer you right away, and we'll set up some time to talk.
Okay.
I'm always, and I'm sorry I missed your note.
No, Prabhuji. No worries at all. No.
Yeah, no, but that happens, and I'm telling everyone I sort of keep up with email and nothing else.
Yeah.
Life was simple when we used postage stamps and sent letters, but those days are gone.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay, nice to see you all. You all have a blessed day, and Hare Krishna.
So, dear devotees, we are humbly requesting you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all, with one heart, one love, chant the Hare Krishna mantra to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to our beloved speaker, His Grace BRAHMA-TIRTHA Prabhu. Please can we do that? Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Harisanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha.
Grace BRAHMA-TIRTHA Prabhu ki
Jai.
Co-founder Acharya is Divine Grace Laisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagagoshal Prabhupada ki
Jai.
all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.